Hey guys, today we're in the book of Genesis, chapter 34. So if you remember yesterday, um, Jacob and them did not go south with Esau like God wanted him to, but yet he went north to Shechem. And then today we pick up on this horrible story that happened. I told you yesterday that as he went north to Shechem, this would start a chain of events that was not good for Jacob and his family. And today we start to see that come true. Now, Dinah, the daughter of Leah, so the one daughter that we know out of the 11 sons that have been born so far to Jacob, but his only daughter, Dinah, went out to see the women of the land. Now, when we read this, we think, well, that would make sense, right? She's the only girl. She wants to go out and meet the other girls of the Canaanite land. Now, remember, this is the promised land, but this is not the promised land that is godly. It is full of nations that hate God and completely act different than God's standards. And so when it says that she went out, it was customary in the Canaanite world, in this promised land, that if a single woman went out without a male, without protection, then she was fair game, so that anybody that found her could do whatever they wanted to her. So when it says that she went out and she goes out by herself, it's not that she was going out and she was ambushed. They knew what was going to happen, right? But Jacob seemed not to care. Her brothers were away, and so that starts to a problem. And so when she went out, we see the Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, the prince of the land, saw her and seized her. So there was no protection. Jacob was not around, and he laid with her and he humiliated her. And his soul was drawn to Dinah and the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the young woman and spoke tenderly to her. So Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, "Get me this girl." Now, when you read this, it's a tragic event. This young girl goes out, she gets taken, she gets raped, and now the guy who raped her, it says that he loved her. We're going to find out he doesn't love her as in, oh my gosh, I'm so infatuated and we're spiritually and emotionally one and we're connected and I want to marry you. It's, oh, I love how you look and what you can do for me, so I want you. It's a property type of love. It's not an emotional or spiritual love. It's a pure physical love. And so here he says, oh, and we can see that by, he tells his dad, he says, "Get me this girl." Just like a little kid throwing a tantrum, I want this. And that's what he does. And so Jacob heard of what had happened to his daughter, that his daughter had been raped. And notice what he does. It says that he held his peace until his sons came in. Jacob wasn't outraged. Jacob wasn't mad. Jacob didn't try to defend or reciprocate. He just held his peace. He did nothing about this. And Hamor, the father of Shechem, sent out and talked, and his brothers heard all that had happened. And notice Jacob did nothing, her dad, but her brothers were what? Indignant and very angry. They were mad that this happened to their sister, the same that is probably if it happened to our sister, we would be mad. And so they were completely mad and angry. But Shechem's dad comes and says, "Hey, we need to make an alliance here, right? My son wants to marry her. So here's this. Let this be the first of many. You give her to my son Shechem, and then we'll let you into our nation, into our tribe. And then you can marry our daughters, and our daughters can marry your sons. And now we can become all one kind of big, happy family." And so this wasn't just about Dinah and Shechem. This was about starting a pattern. that we would have the people of God intermarrying with the people who are against and opposed God. And so this is not what God wanted, right? We see Isaac says, hey, don't let my son marry anybody from here. And we see even Jacob's mom says, I don't want my son to marry a daughter from here. But now he comes back and it's his own daughter. And now we see Hamor saying, hey, let's start this thing. Let's start this pattern. And notice what it says in verse 12. He says, I will give you whatever you want. He has this idea that even though he's being generous, he's saying, it's Dinah. It's your daughter. Who cares? Name your price. I'll give you whatever you want. So you can kind of see the attitude of Hamor and of Shechem here, right? It's not of love. It's not a Hallmark movie. This is truly adultery. It's abduction. It's rape. And now he's trying to buy his victim that he loves the way that she looks. And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem. Notice Jacob does not, but the brothers answer. And notice it says his father Hamor, he answered them how? They answered him deceitfully, right? Deceitfully. There was a calculated deception here. What the brothers are about to say is setting them up for a great fall. And what it goes on, and he says, hey, basically, we're under this covenant with God, and God wants us to be circumcised. And so if this is going to happen, all of the men, all of your nation must be circumcised. And if this ever have, then we can intermarry. But because we have this godly covenant, then we can't do this. So if you want this to happen, all of your men of your nation need to be circumcised. And so Hamor and Shechem really wanted this girl, Dinah. And so he says, all right, we're going to do this. It says their words pleased Hamor and Hamor's son Shechem. He agreed to this. And you notice that they go back to their city, and you see in verse 23, he tells the city, hey, all the men of the city, we're going to have to be circumcised. And the men are like, I don't like this idea. This is a bad idea. But notice verse 23, it says, will not their livestock, their property, and all their beasts be ours? Only let us agree with them, and they will dwell with us. So here you have Hamor saying, hey, I know this isn't a good deal for us, right? I know you have to be circumcised. So do I. But if you allow this to happen, then we will intermarry, and then everything that he has, all of his wealth, all of his servants, all of his herds, his camels, everything, now it will be ours. So he's telling the city, we will all become wealthy if you go along with this circumcision. And so the city agrees. It says every male was circumcised. And notice verse 25, on the third day when they were sore, in the Hebrew, it means in pain. It means without walking, right? So they're hurting so bad they can't walk. You can imagine. And to the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers. So these were her immediate brothers. These were the two sons born to Leah, which was Dinah's true biological brothers, not her stepbrothers, and came against the city when it fell secure, and he killed all of the males. Remember when I said at the beginning that they gave a deceiving answer? This was a calculated, deceitful answer. These boys, Simeon and Levi, said, if you circumcise yourself, then we'll do it. Well, he needed them all where they could not fight and they could not move. And they did this. And on the third day of being circumcised, in pain, cannot walk, they come in and they slaughter every single male. They kill every boy, every man. They wipe it out clean. They killed all the males. Verse 27, they slain and plundered the city. Verse 29, they took all of their wealth, all of the little ones, all of the children, and all of their wives as slaves. So think about this, right? It was bad that Dinah was raped. It was bad that they were taken advantage of. But here you have Simeon and you have Levi, you have Jacob doing nothing, but you have all of these things, right? You always remember If you remember when you were younger, you'd always hear the little story, right? That two wrongs don't make a right. Right. And this is what happens. There was a wrong. Simeon and Levi come in and do something far worse. Far, far worse. They killed all of the men. They put all of their children and women in slavery and then stole everything from the whole city. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You have brought trouble on me." Notice that, me. Jacob didn't care about anything. The only thing he cared about was himself. You brought trouble on me because now you've wiped this out. And now all these other nations in Canaan, in the promised land, are going to hear about this and they're going to come and they're going to come after me. They're going to think I did this, right? He only cared about himself. But the boys answered, but they said, "Should he treat our sister like a prostitute?" No. No, they shouldn't have. What happened to Dinah was a very bad thing, but it was not the correct answer. And the godly answer to that was not killing all of the males, taking all the children and women into slavery, and stealing and plundering the city. Two wrongs don't make a right. It was not what God had wanted. That's why God wanted them to go south. He didn't want them in this predicament, but as they do what they want, now bad things happen, and now they have to keep doing bad things to keep the status quo, to do what they think is right, not what God thinks is right. Now you might ask yourself, where is Jesus in chapter 34? And in reality, I don't know where he's at, but where I see Jesus in chapter 34 is we can see that Jacob, Levi, and Simeon, they did all the things that Jesus told us not to do, right? He tells us to not hate, to not kill, to turn the other cheek, right? To not be provoked. Think about when Jesus is coming out of the garden and Judas comes with the priest and the small army, and Peter takes the sword and he cuts the ear off of one of the soldier, and Jesus heals him and says, "No, this is not the way." Two wrongs never make a right. And when we tend to do wrong things because we think it's making a right, it shows us that we are not in the place that God wants us to be. Hope that makes sense. We'll see you tomorrow in chapter 35. God bless.